Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a special edition of the Advance Your Art podcast. I am, of course, your host, Yuri Cataldo, and thank you so much for joining me. I'm also the co-host of another podcast called The Coin Chat, which my good friend Steve Good and I record almost on a daily basis. It is both a YouTube show and a podcast, so you can find us on YouTube at The Coin Chat, or on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, also under The Coin Chat. I was able to get a very special guest, and I wanted to play that episode on this platform. We sat down with 2020 presidential candidate, Democratic candidate, Andrew Yang, and spoke with him exclusively about his ideas on universal basic income, as well as blockchain and technology, and how that could affect and change the U.S. economy. What's interesting about Andrew is that he is not a typical politician. He went to school to be an economist and then got his law degree, worked as an entrepreneur and ran a couple of companies. He then was invited to work for the Obama administration and advise them on entrepreneurship, and also started a nonprofit focused on entrepreneurship. So he is very tuned in on job creation, and we'll speak about that as well. He is also, unlike current politicians, is very on top of what is actually happening with technology. He understands it very well and speaks at length about what is possible with automation, as well as blockchain and a few other items. So I wanted to make sure that I played that episode for my guest here. Particularly, what I find interesting is his ideas on something called a universal basic income, or I believe he calls it the freedom dividend. Just thinking back to when I first graduated from undergrad or grad school, having $1,000 a month guaranteed would have made the difference between leaving New York City and changing careers and staying around and being able to afford rent. So that's something that I'm particularly interested in. Whether or not it's going to happen or not, who knows? But as a thought exercise, it is very exciting, particularly since there's already a state in the United States that does give its residents a guaranteed $1,000 a month. And I'll let you listen in to hear what state that is. As a side note, in 2019, I have been paying more attention to my health, mostly because I'm getting older. And there's one product I wanted to talk about very briefly. If you're into CBD oil, I have found one that I particularly like. It's from a company called Zilis, Zilis. If you go to zilis.com/Yuri Cataldo, you'll be able to see what I'm speaking about. But I use something called Ultracell. It's a full spectrum hemp CBD oil that is organically sourced, and it is berry flavored. It tastes wonderful. I've been using it every night for the last couple of months. I've been noticing I sleep better. I'm more relaxed. More recently, like literally this weekend, I injured myself because I don't understand gyms apparently or something. But injured myself. There's a topical version that I use, as well as I took the hemp oil, and it really helped me lessen the pain and get through this bizarre injury. So that's something you're interested in, zilis.com/Yuri Cataldo. I also have some smaller samples if you just want to try it out. Contact me, and I'm happy to talk all things CBD oil. I will also post in the show notes Andrew's links, so to his campaign, his books, as well as his ideas on universal basic income. So thank you so much again for tuning in. Without further ado, here is the Coin Chat interview with 2020 Democratic candidate Andrew Yang.
Broadcasting live from the moon and back, this is The Coin Chat, the most trusted voice for all things cryptocurrency. Each week, we dissect an important issue and cut through the noise and misinformation out there in the world of blockchain, cryptocurrency, and ICOs, capturing the facts that truly matter to you that will give you an edge in this fast-moving emerging market. The who, what, where, when, and how of what you need to know in crypto to get ahead so you don't get left behind. Now here are your co-hosts, financial and crypto experts Yuri Cataldo, Steve Good.
Hey, this is Steve Good on the Coin Chat with my co-host Yuri Cataldo, and today we are with a presidential candidate who's also a big fan of blockchain, Andrew Yang. Andrew, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on.
Thank you for having me, both of you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Fantastic.
Thank you for joining us.
So,
yes, I'm joining from my home. I was joking with the guys. It's my kids' room. It's even presidential candidates have to hide from their families sometimes.
don't we all? I'm hiding behind a green screen here.
Yeah, so I'm just glad I have a family to hide from.
It's true.
That has good and bad sometimes. So, I think it's great to have you on the show. Really, thank you so much for taking the time out. I know you're a busy guy. You're out. You've got a lot of things to do to raise awareness of your presidential candidacy and generating all that interest. And, I think for Yuri and I, we just wanted to have a chance to talk with you and to help you raise a bit of awareness around your campaign and kind of get to know a little bit about what you're doing. Of course, from our perspective, we'd love to hear a lot more about your interests in your view on blockchain. And we've got some questions we put together for you to just, have an open discussion and just kind of hear where it's all going to go and what you see is happening.
Well, thank you for that. And thank you for sensing that we're incredibly aligned, where my vision of the economy is very consistent with the people who are in the cryptocurrency community and are working on blockchain advancements, where we need to move towards a more decentralized system for sure, that's more transparent. And blockchain, it's like many other technologies where it's going to have its drawbacks at various times, but
Sure.
The long-term potential is staggering. And really the reason I fell into so many friends in the community is that I found that approximately 99% of people in the blockchain community are pro-universal basic income, which, as you may know, is the essential pillar of my campaign.
Yes.
So I arrived at that through the reality that we are automating away millions of American jobs. We've already automated away 4 million manufacturing jobs, leading to Donald Trump's election in 2016. And now we need to start evolving. And to me, moving toward the blockchain is part of that evolution. So one of the things we're looking at right now is we could potentially enable voting on the blockchain in a way that would free people up from these lines at poll stations and all these systems that everyone's like not even sure if they're getting hacked by the Russians and the rest of it.
Yeah. Right.
There are things we can do. I was just at a meeting of people who are looking to distribute universal basic income on the blockchain, which I think is where it will go eventually. I'm also for the implementation of a national digital currency to supplement the dollar, because there are many, many things that we could do that the dollar cannot do. So this campaign really, and one of the jokes I tell is that people sometimes call me a futurist, but I believe I'm a presentist. It's just that most of the politicians are stuck in the past because that's just their experience.
For sure.
But for me, I've been a serial entrepreneur. I've worked in technology for about 20 years, and I know what's possible. So with people like you, hopefully we can spread that word to people around the country.
So, it's interesting. So, an interesting point that you made. You raised a couple of comments in this that I wanted to pick up on. One was the transparency, which, as you probably know, with cryptocurrency, when you get into privacy coins, it creates some interesting dilemmas, especially for the IRS and for tax. The other thing that I'm wondering about, so I'm just going to ask you these two things together, is that I'm based in London, by the way. Yuri's based in Boston. So as an outsider that spent most of my last 2 years in the crypto world as an advisor to other companies, what I've seen is a complete absence of the U.S. being really present, mostly because of regulation, because of the SEC. And I'm just wondering if you have any particular views on how we can open up the potential channels for allowing the U.S. to really thrive in a cryptocurrency community or a crypto community, a blockchain community, when there's been so much that's restricted America, while we've seen China and Korea and Japan and India and some parts of Europe just thrive, Russia thriving because, technology and people have been able to really get into it. And I've seen the U.S. just kind of fall behind on some respects. Do you have any, thoughts on privacy and its impact on tax, and also how we can open up the channels to really open up the doors for more innovation in crypto and blockchain for the U.S.?
I think the second point is so key, where people think of America as like the hotbed of innovation and technology, when in reality, the American, certainly the political system, is quite backward and retrograde and incredibly bureaucratic. And you can see it with the blockchain and other cryptocurrencies, where the U.S. has essentially thrown its hands up and been like, don't really have an approach here. And so as a result, certainly there are many people in America who are making use of cryptocurrencies, but it's not as supported, and there's a lot more confusion in the U.S. because the place is not as forward-looking. So I hope to be able to change that. I mean, as president, I believe I can start to move America forward. And one of the other jokes I tell is that the opposite of Donald Trump is an Asian man who likes meth. Where his goal is to freeze time and turn the clock backwards, and we need to accelerate time and move it forwards. And that includes certainly having a much more intelligent approach to the blockchain and other technologies that would really. So I think the other thing that's going on in the U.S. that's very painful to admit is that there's just a lot of rent seeking in the U.S. And the truth is, if you had the blockchain and other technologies fully revved up, then you would end up disintermediating accounting firms and law firms and financial institutions. And those institutions really control much of the American system, where no one wants to let anything out that's going to end up disrupting their revenue streams.
Interesting. Yuri, over to you. Go ahead. Ask a couple questions.
So you're one of the few presidential candidates who are accepting cryptocurrencies on your site, which I think is amazing. And you yourself have mentioned on your website that the campaign donors have to register, and also not to share your wallet address so that people can't make untraceable donations. I'd like to hear your thoughts on how this could eventually maybe affect politics in the future, because a lot of people believe that when they hear Bitcoin or blockchain or cryptocurrencies, they think of money launderers, drug dealers, and then dark money. So how would you approach this idea of getting cryptocurrencies involved without that dark money aspect?
Yeah, and hopefully, like even my campaign can be an example of this, where if it's simply an exchange of value, there's nothing sinister about it.
Right.
And certainly for us, I joke that you could donate chickens to my campaign as long as I knew that it was you, and the chickens are like worth a certain amount. And so you can't just anonymously donate Ether or Bitcoin to our campaign from FEC rulings. Like, you just have to tell us who you are. And if we were to get something anonymous, then unfortunately we couldn't make use of it. So that would sort of defeat the purpose. But hopefully my campaign can shine a light on the fact that this is a great way to exchange value and transfer value to another party. And that, my campaign's already collected thousands of dollars in cryptocurrency donations, and we hope that continues. It's something, I've always wanted to demonstrate that I'm very, very aligned with the values of the community. And so hopefully, like you said, we can disabuse people of the notions that anything to do with cryptocurrency means you're, a drug dealer or something.
Right.
So, the fact that you have the, Bitcoin mentioned on your website is interesting, because one of the things that we've seen running a YouTube show, having website and all the rest, is because of the word cryptocurrency or Bitcoin anywhere through any of our channels, we can't advertise anything. And I'm wondering, do you have the same problems having a website that has "we accept Bitcoin" causing you any problems with advertising? And generally, for all the rest of us out, if you're not having any problems, if for the rest of us who are struggling to just run any form of advertising on anything that we do, what's your thought on that, about how much we're being blocked from talking about what we're doing and how we're educating people in crypto or blockchain?
Well, that's really interesting. I didn't realize that because we haven't had those problems, and it could be because we have one page that says Bitcoin, and then we have like hundreds of other pages that are doing other
Sure,
things.
could be.
But those restrictions are very interesting. They're, you know, I'm like scratching my head thinking like, why do those restrictions exist? That, you know, like I can imagine some rationale. I'm sure that whatever is being done is overly broad.
Yeah, I mean, I did a Facebook Live video today. It was less than